Did you know that most people lose a lot of money simply because they don't understand how interest works? Well, we are fixing that today. I'm joined by Percy Singo, who is a finance expert, and he's here to help us make interest work for us and not against us. We will cover how interest works, why is it so important to understand how interest works, how to build wealth with interest, and the mistakes to avoid, mainly the costly mistakes to avoid. Percy, welcome.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
So, Percy,
Yes.
tell me, why is it so important for
Yes.
us to understand interest and
Yes.
how interest works?
Yes. First, I would like just to define the word interest itself, because maybe somebody doesn't understand what we are talking about. And I feel like interest, it's money earned.
Yes.
It's money earned by an individual or company.
Yes.
From borrowing your money or lending your money to someone.
Yes.
For example, let's talk about Machonisa. If you go to Machonisa today, and then you say, I'm looking for 1,000 rent, they will say, no, you need to bring it back with, example, 40% interest.
Yes.
And then, which means you must bring back 400.
Yes.
Which means next month when you get paid, you have to give Machonisa 1.4.
Yes.
So the 1,000 is the principal amount you got from Machonisa, and then the 40%, which is the 400, that's what we are talking about when we say interest. And interest is very important because interest has many advantages. First, it is balancing your money throughout inflation.
Yes.
To say if you've got 100,000 in January, you can still do the same thing that you could do with 100,000 in January in December, even though there's been inflation throughout the year. So it balances your money against inflation. That's the first advantage of interest.
Yes.
And then the other thing is that if, for example, you come to me and then you are saying, I want to borrow 1,000 from you.
Yes.
And then you are just a friend. The moment you bring back that 1,000 in 3 months' time, I have lost money.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of money that I lost. I lost on interest.
Yes.
And then I lost on transactions.
Yes.
So every time you come to me and ask money and you say I'm gonna bring it as 1,000 as it is, I have lost money. It's like I've done favor and then I have taken the loss just for you.
Yeah.
So every time a person comes and then they ask money and they bring it as it is, they have to understand that I've done a great favor for them.
Yes.
Because I've taken the loss.
Yes.
I could have earned interest throughout that period when you are having my money with you.
Yes.
So it's very important for us to understand interest so that we can use it to our advantage.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you made this example that when you give money to people
Yes.
and you don't get any interest back, they
Yes.
give it back to you, it's a loss, it's opportunity cost, right?
Yes.
This then leads me to my next question.
Yes.
You know, people always say compound interest, compound interest. It's
Yes.
been dubbed as
Yes.
the
Yes.
eighth wonder of the world.
Yes.
Can you please explain to us,
Yes. Yes.
why compound interest is so powerful?
Yes, it's very powerful because it's more like when you go and borrow money, and then, or let's say you are lending money, you are lending your money to somebody else. You are saying, don't just bring it the way it is. So when it's compound, it's more like you are getting interest on the interest you are making.
Yes.
Let's say, for example, you put 100,000 and then you are making 600 per month.
Yes.
Which means when they calculate the interest, they are no more just looking at the 100,000. They are looking at 100,600.
Yes.
Which means every money you make, it's also getting interest.
Yes.
That's how your money grows quicker.
Yes.
And it's very important when we go to take investment accounts to always make sure that we are taking those accounts that are compounding interest accounts.
Yes.
So that we earn interest on interest.
Yes.
So it's more like don't just put your money on under a pillow, for example. You can't, because when you put money under the pillow, there are two things involved.
Yes.
First is the risk.
Yeah.
There's a risk of losing money when you just put it at your place.
Yes.
And then the other thing is that you are not getting the interest. And if it's compounding interest, that's a very good one for you, which you'll be making more money and then it will grow quicker.
Yes, and I like that. And maybe just to add another point on top of what you've just said.
Yes.
So the risk of losing your money, not getting interest, right? And not having a peace of mind.
Yes.
Also, you stand the risk of actually getting your head chopped.
Oh, yes.
You know? Because the guy comes, the money is under the pillow. Yeah.
Yes.
So, the way you've explained it is to me, I like the way you've put it because, you know, even a fifth grader will be able to understand what you've put across.
Yes.
Now, tell me, with that said, how much does a person get or expect to get on a rough estimate when they put their money in the bank?
Okay. There are two things, because most of the banks at the moment, if you go to their investment accounts, you look at different banks, the percentage is around 8% at the moment.
Yes.
That's what you get, because our prime lending rate now it's at 11.5.
Yes.
But when you go to the investment accounts, you realize they are around 8%.
Yeah.
Which means if you put 100,000 in your account, you are going to make 8,000 per year, per annum.
Yeah.
That's 8,000 per annum. But when you calculate it back to a month, it's something like 666 rand per month.
Yes.
So if you put 100,000 in the account, you'll get something on interest like 666 6 rand, which is amazing how things works, because it's surprising that if the bank borrows you money, they from you they will expect you to pay. If you check on this working personal loan, they'll expect you to pay something like 25% back to them.
Yeah.
But when you borrow money to the bank, you only get 8% back. But I understand it's because of the risk.
Yes.
When you give your money to the bank, it's more safer than when the bank gives you money, because with you anything can happen. Yeah. So that's how it works. So if you have 100,000, you are looking at something like 666 rand per month.
Okay, so which is good and bad, but I just want to ask anyone watching, does this sound familiar to you? You know, when and if you do, please comment below. And by the way, guys, all this wisdom we are talking about here is in this book. Do yourself a favor, get the best book, How to Make Your Salary Work for You, right? Back to our conversation. Percy, let's continue. So far, we've spoken about positive aspects, right? Now, what are the biggest mistakes people make with interest?
Yes, there is a lot of mistakes that people make. One is when a person decides to say, I'm going to save money just so that I can make money through interest.
Yes.
I feel like interest is not an investment. When we talk about earning interest, that's not an investment. You can't say I've invested my money in the bank.
Yes.
Because the amount you are getting is just balancing your money throughout inflation. It's not really profit.
Yes.
When you are talking about profit, you don't really make a lot in profit. And the other thing is like, let's say for example, you have a house which is owing 1 million, for example.
Yeah.
If you have a house which is owing 1 million today, that's the balance that you are owing. That money, if you have 500,000 and then you put it in your saving account, you are going to get 40,000 on interest per annum, per annum, which means the whole year you are going to make 40,000 from the interest of 500,000. You put 500,000 in the bank, you get 40,000 as interest.
Yeah.
But this 40,000, you don't just get all of it, because they tax you.
Yeah.
But the tax is only apply when you have made more than 23,800 per annum on interest.
Yes.
Which means if you made something like 40,000, they are going to minus the 23,800, then you are left with 16,200. They're gonna tax that 16,200.
Yeah.
That's 500 in the bank.
Yes.
But if you take that 500,000 and then you go to the house that you are owing, like we said that you have a house which is owing 1 million.
Yeah.
And then if you have a house which is owing 1 million, it means on a month you are paying something like 10,664.
Yes.
On the bond.
Yes.
If your rate is 11.5, we just put it on the prime lending rate. You'll be paying the bond of 10,664. And then when you calculate to say how much is going into interest and how much is going into the actual repayment of the house, you realize that if you have 1 million, you can even do this calculation. It's an easy calculation. You take the balance
Yes.
of the money you are owing.
Yeah.
You times it by the interest rate.
Yes.
And then you times it by the number of days in a month. And then you divide by the number of the days in a year.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, you are owing 1 million. You can say 1 million times 11.5 times 31 divide by 365,
Yes.
which gives you 9,767.
Yes.
Which means if you are paying 10,664, the 9,767 is going into interest.
Yes.
Your house is only dropping by 896 rand.
Yes.
And then, but if you have this 500,000 and you're saying, I don't want to put this 500 in an investment account so that I get 40,000, you can put it on the bond. And then now, instead of owing million, you are owing 500,000. And if you are owing 500,000, you can calculate again to say how much will go into interest, how much will go into the actual repayment of the house. You can say 500,000 times 11.5 times 31 days,
Yes.
divided by 365 days in a year,
Yes.
which is 4,883 rand, which means they are taking 4,883 rand from the 10,664 that you are paying.
Yeah.
Which simply means your house is it's now dropping by 5,781.
Yes.
Before it was dropping by 896 before you put the 500,000.
Yes.
Now you put 500,000 is dropping by 5,781.
Yes.
Which means the difference now is 5,781 minus that 896 that it was dropping by before.
Yes.
Which is something like 4,885. Which means now your house is dropping by 4,885 per month.
Yes.
And then if you times that by 12, that's 58,600.
Yes.
So by putting your money in the house, you are reducing the bond by 5,800 and by 58,620 per annum.
Yes.
But by putting the 500,000 in the bank, you are getting the 40,000, which is still going to be taxed. So you are comparing the two to say, if I put my money in the bank, I'm getting 40,000. If I put it in the bond, I'm dropping the bond by 58,620.
Yeah.
Which one is better between putting it in the bank and putting it in the bond?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and hold that thought. I think that's a very, very important analogy that you've put together.
Yes.
And I think the question is,
Yes.
would you then, is it better to put the money
Yes.
in the bond
Yes.
or
Yes.
lend the money to a bank to earn interest, right?
Yes.
Don't answer yet. In just a moment, Percy is going to give us his top tips on how to maximize your savings interest rate, right?
Yes.
Don't miss it.
Yes.
Percy, so holding on to that thought,
Yes.
with interest rates fluctuating,
Yes.
you know, interest rate has been fluctuating,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
currently,
Yes.
right? What advice do you have, or how can South Africans,
Yes.
right, take advantage
Yes.
of the current trends that's happening with interest rate?
Yeah, the first thing I will say, people must not buy things on their maximum affordability.
Yeah.
you must try to leave a buffer so that when inflation is going up and it's going down, you are able to adjust with it.
Yes.
So what happened during COVID is that most people, they went and bought houses and then they could afford them then.
Yeah.
But the moment the interest went up, they realized that the repayment now is higher.
Yes.
I can't afford the debt that I took.
Yes.
So it's very important that we don't take debt at our full affordability. We leave that buffer so that you can adjust with the inflation. But the other thing that I can talk about in terms of adjustment is that the person who has money in the bank benefits the most when the interest rate is high.
Yes.
Like when the interest rate is high, it means you are earning a lot on interest.
Yes.
But it's bad for a person with a debt because
Yes.
now it means your repayment goes up.
Yeah.
And then it becomes difficult for you to pay for that debt if you have taken it in your full affordability.
Yes.
That's when you realize people are even losing. Unfortunately, you find people are losing cars. They are losing whatever they bought during COVID
Yes.
because now the interest rate is very high.
Yes.
So it's very important that we leave that buffer so that we can grow with them, with the inflation. And then again, it's very important that when we take debt, let's focus mainly on those good debts.
Yes.
That you know that it's going to be generating money so that even if the inflation goes up, whatever debt that you had bought, it's going to be generating money for you to be able to afford all these inflations.
Yes.
So it's very important to invest on things that are generating money for us.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So, I mean, what I've gotten out of this is just because
Yes.
you can buy it doesn't mean you can afford it.
Yes.
So you must do your numbers
Yes.
before, because COVID has proven it
Yes.
that everything was going our way, and
Yes.
now interest rates
Yes.
started rising, and,
Yes.
and there's nothing you can do. You just need to adjust.
Yes, correct.
So my question now to anyone watching is that, have you ever been surprised by your loan's interest rates? If you have, please drop a comment below. Now, to what's keeping us holding.
Yes.
Back to our point.
Yes.
Do we then
Yes.
put more money if we have cash?
Yes.
Do we drop it into our mortgage?
Yes.
Or do we then invest it somewhere?
Yes.
What's
Now,
your take?
what is important, I feel like it's a goal to say, what is the goal? That becomes the main objective. To say, if, for example, you have a goal to say, I want to pay off a house, then don't try to save on the side, and then when you reach certain amount, you try to transfer the balance, the sum to the bond.
Yes.
It's better to just focus on the debt, and then you put your savings in the debt.
Yes.
So if you say you are going to be saving, for example, 5,000 every month, don't save it on the bank. Just rather pay it towards the debt as an extra
Yes.
amount that you are paying on the debt, so that you are destroying the interest. Because the problem, what is happening here is that you have got an interest of the bank, which is 8%. You've got interest of your debt, which is 11.5%. So the higher the interest, the worse it is for you, the owner of the debt.
Yes.
So it's very important for you to focus on the higher interest than trying to get 8% from the bank.
Yes.
So take your money and put it into the bond rather than trying to make interest on the bank.
Okay.
So I will say it's best to put your money in the house repayment than to put it on the bank trying to earn interest, which that interest is going to be taxed at the end.
Yes.
And then you end up losing twice. You are already making less than what you were going to reduce in the house.
Yes.
And then now again you are still going to be taxed on whatever is left there.
Yes.
So it's very important for you to put the money in the house rather than in the interest. I remember with myself, there was a time I'm making around 5,000 on interest in the bank. And then I was just celebrating. I will go to my social media and post that this month I made this much on interest, and it was exciting. But when I look at it deep, I realized that I was losing money, because if I had put whatever amount I was having on the house I was going to save a lot of money. For example, or let me just give you details. What was happening? I was having a one bond of my house, which was owing 1,293,000. 1,258,993 rand.
Yes.
Yes. So it's 1 million.
Exact numbers.
1 million. Yeah. So that's what I was owing.
Yes.
And then I was paying on the bond 14,600.
Yeah.
But 13,000 was going into interest, and the bond was only dropping by 1.6. That's what was happening. And then I had some money, like something like 800,000, which I was busy saving. And then I'm like, let me take this whole money and pay it towards the bond. And then after I paid the bond, the balance of the house was now 450,000.
Yes.
Which means now the only money that the bank is getting on interest is around 4,000, which means when I'm paying the 10,600, the house now is dropping quicker because it's dropping by 10,000
Yes.
instead of the 1.6 that it was dropping by.
Yes.
And then I was just celebrating to say I'm getting 5,000 by putting the money in the bank, where else I could be dropping this 10,000 on the house
aggressively.
Yes. So I feel like it's always best to put your money in a debt,
Yes,
than to put it in a bank account.
Yes. Okay. So yeah. So what I've gotten from this, right, is that you only invest
Yes.
when the interest
Yes.
that you're going to receive on that money
Yes.
is more than
Yes.
the amount you owe to the bank or whoever.
Yes.
So basically, based on your example,
Yes.
if I put 100 rand in the bank
Yes.
and I'm getting 5 rand,
Yes.
but on the same time the bank lent me 100 rand
Yes.
and I'm getting and I need to pay back 10 rand.
Yes.
It is not a smart move to put my 100 rand in the bank to earn interest.
Yes.
I rather put that 100 on top of whatever I have to pay off my debt, because the interest is not more than my debt repayment rate.
Yes.
Right? That's
Yes.
what that's what I've
Yes.
gotten from you.
Yes.
This is very smart. So in terms of just recapping,
Yes.
right? What we've taken away today is we need to understand how interest works.
Yes.
Compound interest can help you build your wealth.
Yes.
Right? Avoid common pitfalls when it comes to interest, like
Yes.
what we just explained, right?
Yes.
And always find ways where you can maximize your interest or the savings interest
Yes.
while minimizing your debt interest.
Correct.
Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, Percy, this was really good, right? And thank you very much for coming.
No, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me.
Yes. I'm always a ball having you around,
Yes.
right? And if you found this useful, please share with one friend that needs to hear this. As always, we are dedicated to your success. Be a legacy builder, and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.